Hello everybody, welcome back to Hondo's HoloNet. So today I have a fun little video planned, but before we get into it, I just want to do a little bit of talking about the channel. So, I've been doing almost weekly, I've been trying to, but weekly podcasts where I choose a couple different topics and talk about movies, everything. But I'm trying to change that. I want to put out more content. I know I've been promising YouTube Shorts, but I haven't really been getting to it. But I have time, and I really want to put out more. I've been loving recording Star Wars content. I've been recording Star Wars content, all day. But the past week, I did my Hunt for Ben Solo video, so go check that one out if you haven't seen it already. But yeah, I've been loving recording Star Wars content. So right now I want to focus a little bit more on the Star Wars content that I'm creating and Star Wars content creation in general. So there will be more videos throughout the week, more shorts throughout the week, and all Star Wars themed. And there will be other stuff, movie and TV show reviews I will still do. I need to get to Peacemaker and a few other ones, but I'll get there. But yeah, I've been loving my Star Wars stuff, so I'm going to continue with that. It's something I'm really passionate about. So this one is, like I said, a little bit of a fun video. It's what project would I make in the Star Wars universe? So I got this sent in by a friend telling me what I should, what's a good topic that I could do, and this was one that he said, and I loved it. So I wanted to, talk about if I could make a project in the Star Wars universe, which one would I make? So I have a couple different ones. Some are movies, some are TV shows. So I want to focus on a TV show that I was thinking about, like if I was in charge, if I had any say, what I would make. So it would be Qui-Gon Jinn. It would be a TV show taking place, pre-Phantom Menace, when Qui-Gon was a boy, training. There would be a lot. So it would take a lot of inspiration from the Tales of the Jedi series. And all of the tales and the structure and the format, but mainly Tales of the Jedi. I loved Tales of the Jedi. I loved all the Tales series. I think that they all gave something little to the overall story of Star Wars. But they're different. They were short, they were fun, and they each had, 2 arcs in all of them, and I love the Tales stuff. So the story would take place between 68 BBY and 32 BBY. So for just a little bit, 68 BBY was when Qui-Gon started training with Count Dooku, and 32 BBY is when the Phantom Menace takes place. So there would be 6 episodes. It would be kind of formatted like I said, Tales, but also like Andor, where every 2 episodes there's going to be a few-year time jump, and okay, more than a few years, a lot of years, but it'll be a time jump in between every, so it'll be 1, 2, then 3, 4, then 5, then 6. So the last episode has changed a little bit. So 1 and 2 is going to take place in 68 BBY, which BBY, for anybody who doesn't know, is before the Battle of Yavin that took place in A New Hope. So 1 and 2 is going to focus on, him actually training with Count Dooku and him starting out. So like I said, 68, and he's only 12 years old. So one thing I want to highlight with a way the story could go is he's only 12 years old, and Anakin was much younger when, he started out. Now, you're supposed to take on a Padawan when they're a lot younger. They start out as younglings, then they become Padawans. And Padawans come in around the age that Anakin was a little younger. He was 12 and he was just becoming a Padawan. So maybe he feels some emotional connection to Anakin starting out. And that's why he's so, in the Phantom Menace, so forceful on, we need to train Anakin. He's worthy. He's the chosen one. This is what we have to do. Plus, we get to see a lot more of Dooku's, origins, with not so much how he became a Jedi and how he got into it, but we get to see how he is as a master more than just what we saw in Tales of the Jedi. We get to really see how Count Dooku shaped Qui-Gon's worldview, and it would be really interesting to see what influence Count Dooku had on Qui-Gon Jinn, because clearly there's a lot, because if you look at it in books, in comics, in the movies, and in canon, Qui-Gon had a very, similar connection to the Force that Count Dooku did, where Count Dooku decided to use the Force on the darker side, and that's when he became Darth Tyrannus, the Sith Lord. while Qui-Gon did the same thing, but he used it more on the light side. But they both have the same idea of what the Force is. So to see how Count Dooku trained him up to that and where they differed, to see why Count Dooku thought using the dark side would work and why Qui-Gon thought using the light side would work. Plus, we could also see a lot more of Count Dooku's interactions with the Council, and if that shaped Qui-Gon's interactions in The Phantom Menace on why he defies them in certain places and not the others. And you know, I think that would be a really cool story to tell. Plus, just getting to see more of that Qui-Gon and Count Dooku togetherness action, I think that would be a lot of fun. Both great swordsmen. Count Dooku especially is one of the best lightsaber users, just from basic, sword fighting. He's awesome. So then, episodes 3 and 4 will take place in 44 BBY. So, 44 BBY is when Qui-Gon takes in Obi-Wan as a Padawan. So we get to see a lot of, Obi-Wan and Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon and how their relationship bloomed into what we saw in The Phantom Menace. Because clearly they had a strong bond when The Phantom Menace came around. That was, 12 years later. So Obi-Wan, is not very old when he was taken in. I don't remember his exact age. But, then it comes to the time. We get to see how Qui-Gon trains Obi-Wan and what he does, and this is a big thing, which is a lot of the story I want to be focused on the difference between him and Count Dooku. And why Qui-Gon is the way he is and who he is, and really just why Qui-Gon does what he does. So what does Qui-Gon take from Count Dooku and train with Obi-Wan, and what does he specifically leave out? Specifically leave out. What's the purpose behind it, and then what makes Qui-Gon Qui-Gon? And that's what I want these two episodes, episodes 3 and 4, to really focus on. Why is Qui-Gon the way he is, and how is he going to transfer over, learning? Because up top is Yoda. Yoda trained Count Dooku. Count Dooku trained Obi-Wan. Count Dooku trained Qui-Gon. Qui-Gon trained Obi-Wan. Then Obi-Wan trains Anakin. And Obi-Wan also trains Luke. So it's really interesting to see it pass down to, we know what Yoda's ideals are. We know most of what Qui-Gon's are, but just not in depth. Then we know what Obi-Wan's, we know what Anakin's, we know what Luke's. The middleman that we're leaving out is also Dooku and into Qui-Gon. That's the most important. So episodes 3 and 4 will focus on that. Now, episode 5 will take place in 33 BBY, and 33 BBY is a year before The Phantom Menace. So Phantom Menace takes place in 32. This will really push into The Phantom Menace why the world, the universe, why is the galaxy at such odds at the beginning, like they are at the beginning of The Phantom Menace. Why is Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan the Padawan and the Master who are chosen to go on these adventures and on these missions? And I know there's probably books here and there, but I think reading books, I love reading Star Wars Legends. I haven't read a lot, but I love doing it. But I think seeing it in a we know it's a canon show would just make it so much better, and take aspects from the books and put them in here. So we would see, Qui-Gon and his relationship with the Council as of now. Now we know what it's like in The Phantom Menace. So now it's kind of bloomed, and how Obi-Wan, who's now older, what his view is, and if him and Qui-Gon were ever at odds. We never really got to see that. And that would be in episodes 3, 4, and 5. We'd get to see them if they were ever at odds, if what Obi-Wan did differently than Qui-Gon, and all of that. So, like I said, episode 5 would really focus in on the events leading up to The Phantom Menace. And if something else happened, would Qui-Gon still be alive? If they sent another Jedi, would he be the one still fighting Maul? And would him and Anakin ever meet? So there's a lot of what if scenarios that can take place out of a show like this, but we get to see exactly what happened, day for day in that time. And episode 6, so this is a little more of a time jump. This would take place in 19 BBY, which is the same year that Revenge of the Sith takes place. So this would follow Qui-Gon now one with the Force as he learns actually and trains to become the Force and become a Force ghost. He's going to, we're going to see interactions with Yoda, but you know, Qui-Gon is learning, and in Revenge of the Sith, Qui-Gon cannot become a Force ghost. He doesn't really figure it out until around the Dark Times, and we see him for the first time in Obi-Wan at the end when he's taking Obi-Wan in to train him how to, you know, also become one with the Force after he already has talked to Yoda about it. But we got to see that process. The one thing I'd love to see is the process of, yeah, this is Qui-Gon, he's dead now, and now he's becoming one with the Force, and what that's like, because we know a little bit because we see the Yoda episode in Season 6 of the Clone Wars, the arc, but I want to see more of what exactly it takes to become one with the Force. We see Force ghosts all the time we saw 3 in Return of the Jedi. We saw, and Anakin's one of them. How does he become a Force ghost with no training, really? Obi-Wan, Yoda, Qui-Gon. There's a lot of Force ghosts, and really the question is why. So that's really the story I have set. It would be animated. I was thinking live action, but I feel like animated could really enhance the storytelling of it. And yeah, I think that this is a show that I would love to see made. I would love to, and even if it's not exactly how I have it laid out, Qui-Gon's my favorite Jedi. Han is my favorite character, but Qui-Gon's just my favorite Jedi. He's the coolest, probably the most badass Jedi. So I would love to see, you know, a Qui-Gon based story. So yeah, if there's any stories you guys would make, movies, TV shows, or even comics or books, let me know down below. You know, tell me whatever you'd make, and go into description, whatever you feel. I would love to know, because there's a lot of stories that I would love to come up with for everything. And I was thinking about even making this into, like, you know, a little series where every week I'll go into one project that I'd make. It'd be short, and I'd kind of just describe it like I did this. So yeah, definitely let me know. Please like, comment, subscribe, share, whatever you could do. And like I said, please check out my last videos. The Hunt for Ben Solo was a great one. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.